I think a lot of people underestimate the sheer importance of connecting with nature. Not in the walk your dog sort of way, but in the sheer bliss that comes with exploring a world you've never seen before. Where one can see wilder worlds that a quick stroll neglects. From small animal interactions to larger ones, or life hanging on its edge. Today, what started out as a small nature walk turned into a natural history story. And it all started out at the base of an 8-mile hike, with a further 1,000 feet in elevation gain. It's coming closer to first snow. Colder temperatures mean fewer insects are out and about. Heading out, I wasn't sure what insect species I would find, leaving my eyes set on the various other inhabitants of this land, leading my eyes to a Gambel's oak.
You might be quick to think that the orange stuff growing on this Gambel's oak over here, this small little oak tree, is an algae or a fungi. And if you thought so, you'd be wrong, because it isn't an either-or situation, it's both. It is both a fungi and an algae. This is what we call lichen, and lichen is made up of an algae and a fungi, both working together in something we call a mutualism, where both of them are benefiting from an interaction. So what is that interaction? Well, right now it's quite dry, and algae is usually a very wet plant, and the reason for that is because if they are not wet, they can dry out.
Algae are plants, and they require water to carry out their photosynthetic needs.
On this oak tree, it is quite dry, and so to prevent the algae, which is usually wet, from desiccating or drying out, this fungi can store water for the algae.
And when it rains, or when morning dew collects on the oak's bark, the algae's fungal partner absorbs it, storing it for the algae's future use.
At the same time, that fungi is protecting the algae from the sun. Furthermore, the algae can photosynthesize, and in photosynthesizing, it's creating nutrients that the fungi can live off of on this bark.
Bark that serves as protection for the tree and is otherwise impenetrable. Relationships are an important part of nature. The loss of one can mean several downstream impacts one may not immediately consider. At the base of the Rockies, prairie prickly pear grows. Its fruit, a welcome sight for any animal looking for a quick meal that can get past its armor. But for smaller predators, this isn't a problem. This native ladybug is after another meal. An insect that can get past its host's defense. And one that slowly kills it. Cochineal insects have taken over this cactus. They've invaded every fleshy green stem. Here, it sucks out the nutrients that support the fruit and its fleshy body throughout the winter. But there's a predator nearby, and it's on the move. Unlike ants, deterred by the red carminic acid released by the cochineal insect. But a native ladybug is immune and ready to fight. A hunting success. Without the ladybug, the cactus would die. Life here has evolved over many generations, in a balance that's allowed shrikes to perch and watch over their territory, and mountain mahogany seeds to lay in wait for the perfect conditions to grow. In the meantime, supporting rodents on their mission to bulk up before winter. And thousands of years of routine leading ladybugs to make their way upslope.
I have to be careful because wherever I'm looking is one or two or more ladybugs. There's one over there, there's one that's just gone under here, there's another one over there, and they're going all the way around this little bush and burying into the leaf litter. They have traveled from low-lying areas surrounding this little mountainside and come all the way to the top of this peak. And the reason for that is they are going to hibernate.
Or at least a version of hibernation called diapause, where they reduce their metabolism and move very little to save heat and survive the winter.
By huddling together, they're doing something rather spectacular. They are able to create friction by moving their wings, by moving their legs, by moving on top of one another in a huddled environment under some leaf litter. They are able to be insulated from the cold from those leaves and at the same time produce a bit of warmth all together underneath those leaves, giving a very, very small microclimate that allows them to survive and hibernate even in the really cold Colorado wilderness.
Huddling together protects ladybugs from the cold temperatures in these alpine climates, but importantly it also protects them from predators who might be unwilling to travel so far up into these cold alpine climates to try and feed on these ladybugs. But there are two very well-known threats facing native ladybugs. One is invasive ladybug species who outcompete our native ladybugs for their food sources, aphids. Native ladybugs will consume these aphids before they make their journey upwards to these alpine habitats. And that brings up a second important threat that we need to consider when looking to protect native ladybugs, and that is the protection of alpine habitats. And that includes the protection of lower elevation areas in these alpine habitats, where invasive Asian ladybugs could be taking over and consuming a lot of the prey sources that these native ladybugs are needing before they overwinter at high elevations. If these areas are not protected sufficiently, that could mean the destruction of these overwintering sites for thousands of ladybugs. The same ladybugs that are going down in the summer to go and control cochineal insect populations on our prairie prickly pears. And that means cochineal insect populations can skyrocket to take over prairie prickly pear, an important food source for ants, for various bird species, and enjoyed by us as well. Just in my last video, I got many comments from people saying that they've eaten the prairie prickly pear in some form before. Yet there is still hope. Many of you are still interested in protecting these wild spaces. And alpine habitats remain an important place for recreation. And when recreation and education and habitat protection are all well combined, especially at places like Roxburgh State Park, then habitats and the relationships within them can be conserved. If you enjoyed this content, please consider liking and subscribing to stay up to date on future videos and new releases as soon as they come out. I also post smaller bite-sized videos on Instagram, TikTok and YouTube Shorts, so be sure to follow me there to stay tuned for any updates and news. That's it for now. Running Wild with Ryan, out.